that we have to build, but because we have such a reputation and we have such an incredible. Sorry, no, we're not in the red. Actually, that's we're
come
not
on
in
now.
the red. That's totally another issue, but we're not, and we have so financial solid management. I know what you're referring to. We can talk about that another time if you like. But we're not in the red at all, and everything that we're doing in Paris, the works that we're doing in Paris. Somebody mentioned Massy is totally, as you said, Steve, unrelated to the project that we're having here, and is already financed. So, what I was going to say was. We're like a beacon, so we can bring in the money, and then we can pass it down to you or pass it.
So you're going to take a cut.
It's not about taking a cut, it's about working together. It's not about taking a cut. It's not about, it's about collaborating and bringing, sharing.
I work in the arts, I know exactly how this functions. I know advocacy and donors are very hard to come by, and that there's a lot of competition.
Yeah, sure.
And they have a lot.
Yeah. But we're the Centre Pompidou. The Centre Pompidou. I don't know. We're like the biggest institution. We have one of the biggest collections in the world of modern and contemporary, and not only art. We have design, painting, photography. I mean, it's great. I mean, we have a huge, right?
In Paris.
No,
Let's try to avoid the back and forth. We're only on lucky 13. Next.
It's international, and again, going back to kind of what I said earlier, the goal is to grow the pie here. And I think that that's a collective thing that you benefit from as much as every other artist. And I agree with you. You guys do a lot of work, and it must often go unappreciated. And we try our best to spend dollars and highlight that, but there's limitations to that. The good thing about the budget today, I just want to highlight the same point, that the majority of the burden is carried by the EDA legislation on this. That's the majority of it. So for 10 years, when we mapped out that budget for you guys, you will see that that's the most significant part of this. Everything else is super conservative. We put the philanthropy at roughly $3 million a year, which was a super conservative number when you compare it to NJPAC or Liberty Science Center or Camden Aquarium or any of those things. Because
do you know how many donors lined up right now?
We have, again, it is a question of space. Do we have an institution that we are partnering with, and do we secure the space? I don't think there's going to be any shortage of opportunity to reach that objective that we put there in the line item, because people have expressed interest and we've pushed it off because we don't have a space. So it's a premature conversation. But I feel pretty comfortable that when you look at the budget on the conservative estimate that we put on that front, that it's super attainable.
Number 13.
Yes, I'm lucky 13. Thank you, Tom, and the Journal Square Association. Thank you very much, council people, Councilwoman DeGise, Councilwoman Prince Array, Councilman Baggiano, Councilman Gilmore, if he left, he's still here, because you guys are going to make the decision for us at the next council meeting. It's a real, as the mayor said, and as the gentleman supporting him said, this is about a tax abatement. Unfortunately, it's linked to a lot of other things. And if we prove this tax abatement, it rolls up many things that impact many other things. If we were to proceed with it, we very likely are going to proceed with the Pompidou Center, which impacts our budget throughout it, about how we're going to prioritize our spending. And that's going to get to my one question, because I thank Tom. He asked many of my questions, and I thank Mr. Hines from Hudson County View. He asked some of my questions too. But there's one question we have to get to. And as we walked in here, the mayor introduced himself, and I thank you for making this time, because this is, for the most part, in my consciousness, the first big meeting we've had about this outside of council meetings, but I'm not saying it hasn't happened in other community groups. But he walked in and he started out pushing us all back. He used his favorite term, which I've been hearing for about 20 years, disingenuous. He said many of us are disingenuous. And he went as far as almost naming us here. And that's not the way we would like our elected representatives to engage in meeting with us. We're hoping we're starting this, because this is a big project. This now becomes Jersey City's #1 priority. And we've been through a lot of history with both this administration, our mayor. There's court filings where his former employees accuse him of making stuff up on the fly. And that's up for us to decide as voters. We can either believe him or not. But as people started pointing out during this meeting, they wanted to fact check him. And everyone saw in the various presidential debates about attempts to fact check people. People say what they want to say at the moment. And Mayor Fulup, who's a very good politician, he may very well make it his trend. I don't know. In some ways, I would like to see him move on and out of Jersey City. And he probably wouldn't disagree. He's ready to move on too. And he may be a very good governor. I don't know. But, we have to be able to hold our elected officials accountable. So on the subject of accountability, and I think Mayor Fulup has come out in support of public referendums for a number of issues. We voted on Airbnb. We voted on changing elections. He supported voting on when he backed casinos in Liberty State Park, adjacent to Liberty State Park. He supported and said he would abide by the outcome of a referendum. So my question is, why will we not move forward with a public referendum on this abatement and the Pompidou deal, and let the voters of Jersey City decide? Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
So the reason that I said that earlier, Dan, and you and I mean, you said some things about me personally. It's fine. So I'm gonna respond to those things, which I think is fair. If anybody has a question as far as Dan and mine's history, it's Dan.
I didn't bring up our history, Steve.
Wait a second. It's fair. You said some things that were personal, and I would just say.
I cited
wait a
court
second.
cases.
I would say if you have a question on neutrality, you could go to Dan Levin's Twitter or X, and it's devoted to me. Okay, like every other post for years, okay, is devoted to me. And if you have a question about it, you could go and see it for yourself. Goodness. Every post devoted to me. So there's no question that you're here with that. Now look, I outlined why the timing is what the timing is. I told you that the building was getting built, and if you missed the window on why that is, and I don't know what else to tell you. A referendum at this point would basically mean that the project is dead because the timing would not fit. So here we are. You elect people to speak on your behalf, and there is a legislative process to do that. And we've been very judicious and careful about pilots and abatements and all of this stuff. We've tried to outline everything for you guys and answer them. And like I said earlier, there are people in this room that support me no matter what, and there are people in this room that are critical of me no matter what.